Hey everyone, in today's video I'm going to review the Samsung Galaxy Tab S6 from the artist's perspective, somebody who uses tablets for drawing. Now this review is an artist review, so it's not going to cover gaming, it's not going to cover benchmarks, and if you want to jump to different sections of the video, you can use the timestamps provided. I just want to let you guys see and determine for yourself whether or not this Android tablet is good enough for drawing. So let's start with the unboxing. This is the Wi-Fi model with 128 gigs of storage. There is also the option for 256 gigs and LTE. I bought the base model. And I bought this because there is a micro SD card slot with the tablet, so I can expand the storage very easily. I'm going to transfer my SD card from the previous tablet over to this tablet. It has quad speakers, and this time it has two cameras on the back, one camera in front again. There is the S Pen. Now the fingerprint sensor is behind the screen, and the processor has been upgraded to Snapdragon 855. This model has 6 gigs of RAM. Battery capacity is 7040 mAh. Now this is slightly smaller compared to the Tab S4. The reason for the smaller battery is, well, they made the tablet thinner. My main tablet is actually the iPad Pro from 2018 that I use primarily for drawing purposes. The Galaxy Tab S4 that you saw earlier, that's used currently by my wife. Let's see what's inside. So the tablet is covered by this felt packaging. Let's see what are the accessories included. So we have the S Pen. This is the wall charger. Here in Singapore, we use the 3-pin plug, and this is the USB port, USB-C cable, manuals, and we have the SIM ejection tool. They have also included wired earphones. Because there is no audio jack on the tablet, the wired earphones, it's using USB-C. These are Samsung brand earphones, and this is the speaker and remote, and they have included several earbuds here for different sizes. The last thing they have included is the nib remover and 2 replacement tips for the S Pen. This is the Tab S6 S Pen versus the Tab S4 pen. So the new pen is slightly smaller because of this sort of rounded rectangle design. The edges are curved off. Actually, everything is curved off. The older pen is cylindrical in shape. On the side here, there is still the single shortcut button. You see this black tip here? This is the one with more friction. Now the white replacement tip that is provided, that's the one that is smoother. So for drawing purposes, you want more friction. For writing, you want the very smooth tip. As for the older S Pen, the white tip is the one with more friction. Let's take a look at the tablet now. So there is a picture that shows you how you can attach the pen to the back of the tablet. So this is the tablet. Let me switch on the power. So on the back, this is where you can attach the S Pen, and the tip has to be pointing down because that's where the magnet is. If you have the tip pointing upwards, it doesn't attach. So it's like this, and the button has to be facing out because the magnet is actually on the other side. So when the pen is on the back like this, you can place it on the table and it is actually off the table. The pen behind the tablet allows it to be picked up easily, but it's actually not as easy compared to the Apple Pencil 2 or Surface Pen when it comes to attaching the pen to the tablet, because you cannot see where you are attaching the pen, and you have to make sure the magnets face each other. And because the design of the pen is symmetrical, both sides of the pen are flat, so it can be very easy to attach the wrong side, which is the side with the button, to the magnet, and then it won't stick to the tablet. Notice as I put the pen on the back, there is this battery indicator. So now there is a battery inside the S Pen. The battery allows the pen to be used as a remote, and you can configure certain gestures to control some of the apps that you use. So for example, with the camera app, maybe you can configure this side button to take a photo, or with Google Chrome, you can configure gestures like swiping up and down to scroll up and down without the pen touching the screen. But some of those gestures, they are kind of useless because for things that you can really do with your fingers, you don't need to configure the gesture to do it wirelessly because, well, you can really do it with your fingers. So it doesn't really help you in any way. The battery is for those wireless features. If you're not using them, whether or not you charge your pen, it doesn't really matter. You can still use the pen even if the battery is flat, and you can also use the S Pens from other models. This is the one from Tab S4, and you can also use the Staedtler Norris Digital. And these two, they are not powered by battery. One thing I really don't like about this pen is when you press the side button, it's going to call up this list of shortcuts that allow you to create notes or do some quick drawing, but there is no way to turn off this functionality. This is what happens to me very often. I would be drawing and then I would hit the button accidentally and I have to tap to go back to the screen, and I hit the button again. So you can imagine how disruptive this can be. You see this pen icon, you can press it with the pen and it will call up the same functionality. You can turn off the icon, but even if the icon is gone, when the pen is close by, you press the button, you're going to get this again. So very irritating. I've just set up the tablet and also installed some apps on it. The look and feel of this tablet, it's very premium. The build quality is excellent, as you would expect from Samsung, as you would expect from an expensive tablet. Nowadays, you can get Android tablets at really low prices, so this is definitely priced at the higher end. From what I saw on Amazon, this is currently selling for US $649. That's the model with 128 gigs of storage and Wi-Fi. That's not the LTE model. The design looks very nice. The tablet is really thin at 5.7 millimeter, even thinner compared to the iPad Pro, which is 5.9. But in terms of thickness, actually it's not very different from the iPad Pro. The new tablet has a slightly boxier feel because the edges are flatter. Corners are rounded off, the bezels are very thin, colors on the screen excellent, and the viewing angle looks good. Even when the tablet is tilted at this angle, you can see the colors, they don't shift much, which is great. On this side of the tablet, we have the USB-C port, 2 speakers. On the other side, we have 2 more speakers, so quad speakers. The audio quality is actually quite good. No audio jack. And here we have the power button and the volume buttons. This is the connector for the keyboard, and 2 cameras here, one extra wide and one normal camera. Watching YouTube videos or any videos on this screen, it's very enjoyable. The colors look fantastic. This is very similar to the colors that I see on my high-end monitor, the monitor that I use to edit this video. And right now, this YouTube video is playing at 1440p resolution, so it's making use of the full resolution that this tablet can give you, and the result is very sharp image quality for videos and also for all the other apps that you use. Videos play really smoothly, and I like how bright this screen is. It really helps create extra contrast, and even though I have a bright window on the side here, you can see the colors, the contrast, they still look fantastic. And data from the Wi-Fi is able to load really quickly, so playing 1440p videos like this, absolutely no problem at all. One thing I noticed when web browsing is as I'm scrolling really fast, I can see some slight wobble. So as I scroll up here, I can see the wobble at this angle, and as I scroll down, the wobble is at this angle. So that can be a bit distracting. That wobble from scrolling up and down very quickly is definitely there as well on the Tab S4. So in terms of design, the Tab S4 is slightly wider and slightly taller and slightly thicker, but other than that, they look kind of similar. So for web browsing purposes and also watching videos, I don't think you're going to notice anything different. Maybe the web pages load faster here, it's slower here, but it's not like really slow. I don't game on Android tablets, so I cannot tell you how good this new tablet is for gaming. As for benchmarks, you can find those numbers online very easily. Let's do some drawing test now. This is a laminated screen, so there's no gap between the glass and the display behind. This means when you are drawing or writing, it would appear as if the lines, the strokes, they are directly beneath the pen tip. There is no gap, or very minimal gap, between the line and the pen tip. You may notice that there is some jitter with those lines there, but that's because I am drawing really slow. So when drawing or writing at normal speed, the lines, they are pretty smooth. Let's draw something. This app that I'm using now, this is Medibank Paint Pro on Android. As you can see, there is pressure sensitivity. But pressure sensitivity for this particular app, you have to turn it on. It's not on by default. And also I'm placing my palm on the screen while drawing. There is palm rejection. The performance here, it's quite fluid, pretty responsive. This black colored pen tip that I'm using, this is the one with more friction. When it comes to drawing, I prefer a pen with more friction because it allows me more control. I can draw a bit slower. I can be a bit more accurate. If you want to draw very quickly, you can switch to the white colored tip, which is very slippery on the screen. I think for writing purposes, it's better to use the white tip, but for drawing, it's best to use a tip that gives you more control, a tip that has more friction. Notice I tried to do a double tap there. Now for the Android version of Medibank Paint Pro, there is no double tap to undo. You see, on iOS, you can do this to undo. It's very convenient, and there are a lot more features with Medibank Paint Pro iOS version compared to the Android version. You see, when I click this menu here, I see a lot of options here. When I click on the Android version, there are fewer options here. Now, drawing apps on iOS, well, there are a lot of high quality drawing apps. When it comes to Android drawing apps, sometimes I find the features to be lacking. This is one example with Medibank Paint Pro. Looks like the strokes, they taper very nicely. And because there is no gap between the glass and the display beneath, there is also no parallax. The screen refresh rate of the Samsung tablet is just 60 Hz. It's not as high compared to the iPad Pro, but 60 Hz is actually not that bad. Oh, see what happened just now? The canvas zoomed into this tiny area. That is a bug with the Android version of Medibank, and it's quite irritating. Sometimes it happens a few times in a row. It's very frustrating when it happens. See, it happened again. I'm not sure exactly what triggers it, but this is a problem that happens with the third time. This problem also happens with Galaxy Tab S4, so it's not specific to this particular tablet. When it comes to zooming in and out, rotating or panning around, animation on the iPad Pro with ProMotion 120 Hz screen refresh, it's smoother. Here you can see the refresh rate. it's not as high, so the animation is not as smooth, but this is definitely still very usable. By the way, Medibank's autosave, it sucks, so it's best to save manually. I've lost a lot of work because autosave wasn't able to restore my previous saves, so save manually, please. This is Artflow, another drawing app on Android. This app doesn't have the zoom in and out bug of Medibank, so the drawing experience here is actually quite nice. And the performance, it's very fluid. Pen pressure works nicely. Strokes taper very nicely as well, depending on the brush you use, of course. So when it comes to drawing with Artflow, no issues at all. Oops, you see one stray stroke there? Palm rejection works well, but it's not flawless. So sometimes there will still be the occasional stray strokes. And with Samsung tablets, with the S Pen, I would check for stray strokes occasionally, because when you're drawing, when you complete your drawing, you don't want to find stray strokes because at the end of the drawing, it can be quite difficult to correct those mistakes. My overall drawing experience with Artflow, it's positive. I don't have a lot of issues with this. This is a very smooth drawing app. See, there's another stray stroke there. Oh, another issue with Artflow and some of the drawing apps is on Android, there is this bar at the bottom, the navigation bar. So when you want to make that bar appear, you cannot swipe from the bottom up. It's going to create unwanted strokes. You have to actually swipe from the top to get to the bar. So that's something you have to remember. This is Adobe Sketch. It's quite fluid here. This is Autodesk Sketchbook. Pressure works fine. It's quite responsive. Now pay attention to the gap between the line and the pen tip. I'm testing for input lag. So there is a gap between the line and the pen tip as the line catches up. I don't really have any issues with this amount of input lag because it's still very responsive when it comes to drawing. So for doing quick sketches, no issues at all. Let's compare the input lag on the iPad Pro with its 120Hz screen refresh versus the Tab S6. Pay attention to the gap between the line and the pen tip. Okay, I can see that there is a slight gap, but it catches up very quickly with the pen tip, and also the animation at which the line catches up with the pen tip, it's smoother. This is ArtRage. Does anyone use this? Anyway, I'm showing this app because with some of the Android tablets that I have tested, when I pick this particular flat brush and draw a circle, the circle will be angular, but here it's a circle and it's very smooth, so no problems here. 10.5 inch is a good size to work with. It's not too big and not too small. This is about the same size as an A5 sketchbook. Now the aspect ratio is 16:10. So when it comes to drawing, it's best to use this tablet in landscape format so that you can see all the palettes. For example, if I were to turn on the layers palette, I still have a good size to draw in. In vertical format, if I were to turn on this layer, you see this working area. This is now more vertical and it's not as easy to work with. But when in landscape mode, I can actually just leave the layers palette on and I still have sufficient space to work with. Battery life is quite decent, so I've been using this for almost 3.5 hours and now my battery is at around 50%, so you can probably get 7 hours of non-stop use when it comes to drawing. If you plan to draw outdoors with this tablet, I'm happy to tell you that the brightness is more than adequate. So now you can see the reflection of my wall and also the reflection of my hand. Now when the tablet is on, notice you cannot see the reflection of my hand anymore. If there is a strong light source pointing directly to the screen, you are still going to see reflections. And when drawing outdoors, usually I will hold the tablet at an angle, so this is pretty much what you will see, or what I will see. After drawing for a few hours, this tablet, it doesn't feel warm at all. So this is a tablet that you can draw comfortably for hours. Even for the iPads, when you're drawing outdoors, the screen would be much brighter because of adaptive brightness, and the iPad would become rather hot. But for the Samsung tablet, it's not that hot. Whenever I review tablets, there will always be people who will say this brand is better than that brand, and the most common comparison with the Samsung Galaxy tablets would be the iPad, which is pretty much the standard. So here I have a 12.9-inch iPad Pro, and this is the Tab S6. Well, this is not like a very fair comparison because this tablet is several $100s more compared to the Tab S6. So a more reasonable comparison would be the iPad Air 3. And for $499, you get 64 gigs of storage. And for the same price as the Tab S6, with the iPad Air 3, you can get 256 gigs of storage, but Apple Pencil is sold separately. Now, one thing I like about iPad or iOS is the aspect ratio. It's more towards 4:3, which I like better because it allows you to work horizontally as well as vertically. And the second thing that I like is drawing apps on iOS. I feel that they are more polished. They have a lot more features. For example, with Medibank Paint Pro that I showed you earlier, the iPad version has a lot more features that the Android version doesn't have. And also on the iPad there is Procreate, which is an excellent app when it comes to digital drawing and painting. Some of the apps here are very similar to Android versions like Adobe Draw, Adobe Sketch, Autodesk Sketchbook. Another thing that the iPad has that the Android does not is finger gestures for drawing apps. So for example, I can undo easily with double tap here. Using Procreate, I have this swiping gesture to clear the layer. And I have basically a lot of finger gestures available, not just for Procreate, but for other drawing apps. But on Android, finger gestures functionality, it's very limited. Having said all that, there are people who don't like Apple as a company, so it's always good to have competition. And when it comes to drawing, for drawing purposes, the Samsung Galaxy Tab S6, this is a very decent tablet for drawing. It's a good tablet for drawing. I can say the same for the previous models as well. If you have the previous models, the 3 and the 4, I don't think it's worth the extra money to upgrade to this because you can expect similar drawing performance. Unless you really want more RAM. It has 6 gigs of RAM and more storage and the better processor. Storage has never been a problem with Galaxy tablets because of the micro SD card slot. As an Android tablet, this is one of the best, if not the best out there in the market currently, and it has a high price tag to go with it. Whether or not it's worth the money, you decide. All I can say is the look and feel, it's very premium and the build quality is really solid. And the Super AMOLED screen, really wonderful. Alright, that's all for my review. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. And if you draw on Android tablets, I would love to hear what you have to say. Let me know. Alright, thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye!